Hi, I'm Jeff Holden. Welcome to the Nonprofit Podcast Network. Our purpose and passion is to highlight a nonprofit organization in each weekly episode, giving that organization an opportunity to tell their story in their words to better inform and educate the respective communities they serve, as well as provide one more tool for them to share their message to constituents and donors. Our goal is to help build stronger communities through shared voices and to both encourage and support the growth of local nonprofit organizations through podcasting. Thanks to our founding partners for their foresight in helping us transform the way conversations start. CapTrust, fiduciary advice for endowments and foundations. Runyon Saltzman Incorporated, RSE, marketing, advertising, and public relations creating integrated communications committed to improving lives. And Western Health Advantage, a full-service healthcare plan for individuals, employer groups, and families. I don't know about you, but when somebody suggested I speak with an organization that uses horses for psychotherapy, I thought I knew exactly what they were about. And nothing could have been further from the truth. The episode we're about to embark on doesn't require a saddle, boots, or even a pair of jeans, as these horses are not about getting saddled up. They're about healing trauma as a result of their innate ability to sense an emotional connection. Donna Eckwortzel, founder and executive director, joins me today from Hart's Landing Ranch. We'll also be joined by two beneficiaries of the program, Deanna and Annabelle, to share their stories. With a background in business and contract development in the high-tech industry, it was her own healing experiences she had with horses as a teenager that never let go and has since driven her to start Hart's Landing Ranch, Equine-Assisted Learning and Psychotherapy. You're going to hear how these horses, all rescued I might add, make deep emotional connections in the hearts of those who have suffered abuse, depression, suicidal thoughts, human trafficking, addiction recovery, PTSD, and more. You'll hear how the horse becomes a bridge for each person to find their voice to further articulate shame, guilt, and wounded feelings. Let's get started. Donna Eckwortzel, Deanna, and Annabelle, welcome to the Nonprofit Podcast Network.
Thank you so much. Great to be here.
Boy, we are so excited because the conversation we're going to have today is unlike any other.
Okay,
right?
Good. Good. I love it.
And we have guests. We have Annabelle and Deanna, and we'll be getting to you guys a little bit later in the program. You know, first off, how on earth did you come to realize that horses had therapeutic mental health capabilities? I mean, most of us can think that we would be riding the horse for the therapy, and I know there are programs like that, but your constituents never get on the horse.
How did I come about it? Well, it was a divine direction, intervention. I wasn't looking to do this. Back in 2013, we were looking for property to have a horse on, and couldn't find anything until we stumbled across the one where we are located in Granite Bay. And it wasn't until I was in the process of doing this that I realized it was a thing, not well known back then. And I think part of our work has been making it better known and understanding the therapeutic value of it by having our Stampede and the Harvest Boar and things like that for awareness. But to answer your question, what I realized doing this work is back when I was 13 years old, that was my saving grace, was a horse named Spirit. And I get chills just telling you right now that horse saved my life. And I understand how all things work together for good. Mm-hmm. So
that's amazing. In terms of the horses themselves, there's more to it. These aren't just horses that you acquire. The horses are compromised in some way, shape, or form as well. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Well, our particular horses, so every ranch is different in terms of the animals that they have on the property, but if they're good stewards like we are, you're looking for ones that understand the work that they're going to do. The ones that we have on the property, out of 9, 7 of them are rescued from dire situations, most of them from slaughter outside of California, but in the United States. And so they were going to be sent off to a foreign country to be slaughtered for a consumable. And with that comes a lot of abuse during the process of going through the slaughter pipeline. And I didn't know that such a thing existed, and neither did a lot of our volunteers when we started rescuing them. So the ones that we have on site are, very good at their job. I think they also appreciate, having a safe place to be, and they're great at their job.
You speak of them as in first person, not first animal.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about what it is that allows a horse to identify with trauma or PTSD or human trafficking. What is it that the horse either senses or picks up with humans?
Well, horses and prey animals, so our prey animals, and
Yes.
most prey animals, they live in the complete present. They're not worried about yesterday. They're not thinking about the future. They're in the present because they're on a high alert, looking for predators, right? And entities that will be part of their herd, right? And there's always an evaluation that's going on. So they're in a high alert state, which makes them a really good companion for the therapeutic process for mental health. And so they're picking up, our feelings and emotions and things like that, and either coming closer or walking away. And so hopefully we'll have Annabelle share with us a little bit about what that was like to have a horse cuddle up, close to her.
That's interesting. I recall from school or something, prey, eyes on the side of the head, predator, eyes forward. And so horses do have their eyes on the sides more than they do forward.
And what are we?
Oh, I know. We're looking straight ahead.
Yeah.
Right at each other.
We walk and talk and
meat-eating predators,
yeah.
right? Right?
Yep. And act like that. And so there's the part of, they can pick up senses that we think we can mask, right? So even though I walk up to a horse and think I'm having I want to pet this horse and have a good time with this horse, but inside there's a discrepancy going on inside, and the horse will pick that up. And instead of, trying to figure it out, they're like, I need to move away because there's something not right. And we do that as humans, except for there's this nice part that, be a nice person, people pleasing, that we shut that down. And we don't want to judge something else. But their judgment is their life is dependent on it.
Right. That's interesting because I would not have thought of the element of the awareness is this person predator coming up, and they're going to be extra sensitive to it. So I can now understand a little bit where you get that sense of how you approach.
Yep.
Well, that's very interesting.
Let me just share, there's a great book that I have all of our folks read, which is Riding Home by Tim Hayes. And he does a really good job of communicating the therapeutic benefits of the mental health in the horses, but also the nature of a horse and why it's so effective. So I highly recommend it. It's just an amazing, amazing book for people to read if they're interested.
You mean for your
volunteers, our
everybody.
board of directors, not necessarily clients.
Got it. Okay, that's where I was going.
Sometimes parents of clients or grandparents of clients. But even you would be, I think just in general people, because he talks about the therapeutic aspects from, what we think are challenging right? Gang members or people that have suffered from trauma. But he talks about divorce as being one of the biggest issues in terms of trauma in, kids' lives
Sure.
and things like that. So he does the whole gamut, and it's great because he's easy to read. And then he also provides a whole bunch of resources behind it, too. So it's backed by a lot of resources and references.
On your website, you also said something relative to in community, which I think is key. You want to explain that a little bit?
So horses cannot survive without a community. And in the wild, they have to learn how to work it out so they can be part of a herd or a band, right? In human nature, we tend to think that we can, and we isolate ourselves. And so we're meant to be in community. God says that. We are meant to be along with one another and help each other, good times, bad times, in the middle. And we need each other to work through. We were just talking about mourning, having conversations, just life situations. So we utilize that aspect of the horses wanting to be in community because they look at us as team members also as part of the herd, right? So, but they're part of our herd and we need to be safe, for them in that. And when new people come, they're always looking, is this safe? Is this not safe? One of my favorite exercises is the round pen and working on boundaries and clear communication. And in the wild, the horse will run around the herd. Let me back up. A horse that is alone, maybe cast out from another herd, will find one, and they will circle that herd. And the leaders of that herd, the alpha mare and the stallion, will evaluate that behavior of the horse to see if it's a good addition to the herd. Is it going to cause conflict? Is it going to cause drama, right? All these things, right? Is it, in their language, is it going to take the breeding rights or, eating and drinks and, those kinds of things drinking away from them. So they're looking to see if it's going to be a good fit. And we use that in a lot of boundary work and clear communication work, whether or not you want to invite this horse into your, private, because a lot of times people don't know how to look at the behavior and see it, because you can see it on the animal and translate it into your own work as we're looking at humans too. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And we know those outcasts in society. Where do they fit? They're trying to fit, and sometimes, unfortunately, they end up fitting into the wrong herd, into a gang or into a bad situation that just gets worse. So, yeah, perfectly understood. How does a client get to you? How do they find you? How does it happen that somebody says, I'm going to go to a ranch for my psychotherapy?
There's lots of ways that you can get to a ranch. You can get a Christmas tree.
and I have a hard time not saying, I'm going to go talk to a horse, and I can't help but think of Mr. Ed. It's like, and having the opportunity to have been there.
Yeah.
What was the large horse's name again?
Midnight.
A gargantuan horse. To look at that head coming into the crowd of people, the horse's head was 3 of ours.
Yes.
Yeah.
As he just sticks it in and kind of hangs out. I wanted him to say something. He just seemed so, intuitive. But how does a client get to you? How does that happen?
Many different ways, and Deanna has some unusual story, but many different ways. People find us now that equine-assisted psychotherapy is becoming more well-known. It's an alternative therapy, especially where 1 in 6 youth are having some kind of trauma, depression, suicidal tendencies. A lot of things are going on for kids, and they're the least served. So when you think about that, you kind of think, okay, so traditional therapy is sitting in a room, right, and talking with someone. And I don't know about you, but I'm almost 60, and I can't always know how I feel, until I'm, having that with friends and things like that. Go ahead.
And nowadays, it's not just sitting in a room. Nowadays, a large percentage of these counselors are doing everything online.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So you're not even, you are
Yeah.
not getting to do this person to person.
Right.
You're getting a computer screen.
Right.
Yep.
So it
How
removes the
impersonal, when you're going through something so deep, how impersonal is a computer screen? Can you really open up to that computer screen? Can you really reach out and touch that computer screen? Can that computer screen make you feel better?
Right.
Not really, if you think about it.
And it removes that community aspect of it,
It
too,
removes
which is really,
all the personal about therapy.
yeah. So
And I totally agree. The essence of what we do here, 99% of the time somebody's in studio, because some of the stories are, as we're going to find out, they can be emotional. You're not going to elicit some of these things on a screen. You're not going to share some of the stuff on a screen because you have, a digital wall in front of you. But when you're immersed with humanity, I mean, there's a warmth that comes off of it. There's a sense of there's just a vibe. You can tell.
It's 2D versus 3D, and then our brains are always scanning, right?
Yep.
So, in part of us, right, we're saying that isn't safe, as well.
working on the mics.
There you go.
1,200 pound horse and a little small mic. But to answer your question about, you were going to finish
that was
about
it.
the 3. Okay. So online, we were a member of egala.org. That's a lot of our certifications are from there. And then we're also a similar ministry to Crystal Peaks Youth Ranch up in Bend, Oregon, which is also international as well as EGALA. We have a lot of relationships now through organizations, CPS, the DA's office, through all the greater Northern California communities, and we'd like more.
And see, that's great. That's usually a question that comes up. You're already offering it. It's the collaboration with other organizations to say, we think we might be able to help if you can't get, if everything else isn't working, then consider this.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's even a higher priority because they know that particular client could benefit.
The VA, the vet center here in Citrus Heights in Sacramento are great. We just finished a couple of rounds of activity, sessions with them. So just them learning, and the vet center is actually sending 3. We found some scholarships for 3 of the vet therapists to go and get certified in EGALA, so that's going to be exciting. Yeah, so we'll be working continuously more on programs. But our primary interest has been always with youth. We found that those youth grow up, and if they don't get the help early on, it carries through their life.
Yes.
And what a sad situation in terms of that baggage that gets carried around. And yes, it's something that happened, but it's a way that you can look at it and use it for good or to make a difference in other people's life, and not to be ashamed of it, which I definitely want you to talk about that, Annabelle. So just a lot of different ways, that people will contact and reach out to us. Word of mouth, a lot of networking, and that's we've become more well known in the last couple of years. I think even just through the
huge. Yeah. We've been going to talk to a lot of different people and reaching out to a lot of different groups and trying to get the words out there.
Yep.
I think rather than have you explain what happens when somebody comes to the ranch, we'll talk about some of the greater experiences of groups and things that come through. But since we have Annabelle and Deanna in studio to tell their stories, which are very uniquely different stories, why don't we start there? And Deanna, why don't we start with you?
Okay.
That's where I would have started.
Yeah.
We got this, right? Mine is, my story is, about my family, but mostly about my granddaughter. She was 9 years old when we found out that she had been severely traumatized and molested and victimized. And the DA's office tried to help us find counseling. The insurance, we went through the insurance and tried to find counseling. And there's just not much out there for kids at all, anywhere. It doesn't matter if you have insurance or you don't have insurance. It's just not out there. And being post-COVID, there was really nothing out there. Everybody had cut back on hours, or as we talked about earlier, gone to video, which was a little 9-year-old little girl who can barely even speak for herself at that point. Wasn't an option. I remembered, like I mentioned earlier, we got a Christmas, my daughter, she's a single mom. She got a Christmas tree through Hart's Landing Ranch a couple years previous to the trauma. And, when she got it and we found out what the ranch was, and, never thinking in a million years that it would be something that our family would ever have to go through.
Right.
And I don't know where, but about a couple months after we had been looking and getting nowhere with finding a counselor, I was just laying in bed and it just came to me like, oh my God, the ranch, where we got the tree. What was the name of the ranch? So I went and was looking up everything on Facebook, of all things, social media. And I called my daughter right away, and I said, I just called the ranch. And she's like, okay, Mom, what ranch? Mom, remember where you got the Christmas tree, Hearts Landing Ranch? And she's like, yeah. So I left a message. And she goes, why? I said, they do the therapy. I said, they do equine therapy with kids, for what Melody's gone through. And she's like, okay, what do we do now? I said, well, I left a message for Donna. Well, it only took a few hours, and this amazing woman called me back. And I explained the situation. I explained what Melody was going through, about my daughter being a single mom and not having, resources. And, I told her that, we had already, we're in the process, all the, what do you call it? The criminal process. We were going through all that already, but we couldn't find her any help. And I didn't know how much the ranch was. I didn't know how much it was going to cost. And Donna's like, we're not even going to worry about that. She goes, we'll figure all that out. She goes, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get Melody in here. We're going to get her some help. And she did. She was there the next week. And what people don't realize is,
Praise God.
Therapy starts the first day you walk in.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't end. She was 9. This was 2 years ago. It doesn't end. You do okay for a little bit. And like right now, she's not doing okay. And it was 2 years ago. So now we got to go back and kind of start over a little bit again. But the ranch never left. It hasn't left 4 generations of my family. Donna has been there for my mom, for me, for my daughter, for my granddaughter, her sister. My granddaughter's the one that goes to therapy there through a scholarship, thanks to the ranch, which a lot of the kids there are on scholarship because it's not something that's generally funded, through insurance. Most insurances, don't pay for equine therapy. So you have to get help. And Donna's made sure that we've had everything that she's needed. Through everything, whatever kind of therapy she needed. She's been through 2 different ones already. And Donna brought in an EMDR therapist for her because she needed EMDR. Whatever she's needed, Donna's made sure she's had. I don't know how this miracle worker over here has done everything that she does, but she figures a way to get it done.
And what is EMDR for the benefit of the listener?
I forget what the acronym
I
stands
was just
for.
trying to think of what it stands for, too.
It's tapping. People know that it's where you're rewiring the brain back to. We need to.
Is it brain spotting?
It's somewhat. It's not
similar
brain spotting.
to. It kind of. The way it works is she would sit down with this therapist and get into she would build a safe space, like a safe room, a safe place where she is. She'd ask her what the colors are, what she sees around her, making her own little safe space in the world, or in, the house or outside or wherever she wanted to be that day. And, the sounds, the colors, the smells. And then when she gets there, then she would ask her questions and she would talk to her. And she would do the tapping, like tap on her arm or tap on her hand and get her to think of a bad time. And then, okay, but then after the bad time and you talk, but what were the good thing that happened around the same time? Was there a birthday party? Was there an outing you went on? Was there a family experience? Did you have a good day at school? Was there, a field trip? Was there, and you find these good things that go around the bad so that the good kind of overtake some of the bad that's going on in your memory. And then they would, talk about all of the good things and what do you remember about this? And even with the bad person, was there a good thing that happened with this bad person that would help to not necessarily erase, but subside some of the hurt and the anger and the depression and the anxiety and the stress and everything of the situation.
Is that...
I have the definition here.
Oh, good,
Sorry.
thank you.
Eye movement desensitization reprocessing. So it's a psychotherapy that enables people to heal from symptoms and emotional distress as a result of their trauma. So it's kind of helping reprogram in a way.
Reprogram,
Because
desensitize.
you only remember the bad thing that happened.
And it wants you to remember good over bad.
How does that then translate into the equine psychotherapy?
Well, she was doing, she went through the equine therapy through over a year of equine therapy every week at the ranch.
And I'm just imagining for a 9-year-old child, initially maybe a lot of fear and anxiety, but as she gets comfortable with the animals and it softens some of the experience of trauma and you engage with the horse to some degree?
It was recommended by the therapist that we had at the time that was doing EAP, equine-assisted psychotherapy. That was a next step because she was stuck. So when her granddaughter first started coming, there was a lot of trauma to the point where she couldn't remember. She picked the same horse every time she came. So there was a lot of non-talking, but a lot of breathing, relaxation, getting comfortable. And then she got to the point where she could process, some of the things. And then the brain gets to a point where, okay, we need to shift. And the recommendation from our therapist at the time was that she do a period of EMDR to help her through the process. And
I think a lot of it too, especially with the equine therapy with the horses, was how Donna and Allie, I think it was Allie, right?
Yeah.
Allie was amazing. And even myself and her mom and her great-grandma, who was with her a few times, reinforced to her that, they were rescued horses. And she got to love on the horses. So she would pet the horses and feed the horses and be able to hug the horse. And she felt, I think, that like she was giving something back to the horse that was hurt. So the horse in turn turns that around and it gives her the love and it gives her the safety net and the opportunity to feel safe and to feel loved by something. And, the horse is stronger than her, obviously, so it gave her strength to be able to open up and speak. It wasn't just Allie and her sitting there talking. It was that she got to love this horse and she got to hug this horse and she got to feel the strength from this horse that helped her build her own strength so that she could talk and she could open up. And, even to the horse, she could talk to the horse and Allie was there with her.
Yeah. There's a part where the brain, it's almost easier for people that have suffered trauma and PTSD. They wish they could have had a broken arm or something, because it's easier for people to see that there's hurt. And the brain, when it's damaged, goes through a whole bunch of work that's needed. And I think just to think that you're going to have a one-off, time period or one modality is going to, solve everything, right? The brain needs process to heal and grieve and mourn, the trauma that you went through and process that, and especially at a young age. So I remember many months went by before there was actually speaking that was going on. But one of the horse that she always picked, which is actually interesting, that was the horse that you worked with, Molly.
Yep.
Wow.
Carried.
So
Yeah.
Annabelle and Deanna's granddaughter are working with the same horse.
Yeah, that picked them. Yeah, well, you guys, they were picked.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. I just thought about that. But Molly carried some pretty heavy burdens that were written on the horse. So we create curriculum, when the client is ready, right? In this case, it was a very slow process of just her showing up, right? And being there and being present and putting hands on and breathing and feeling safe, right? Because she hadn't felt safe for a while. And then actually sharing some of those things. And I remember the very first time Allie had asked her, let's paint on the horse, how people see you. And then on the other horse, on the other side. So once she was done with that side and what she wrote, then she changed to the other side and said, why don't you write down how you see yourself? And it was one word. And she got to, so it was an exercise, right, that we did. She was at that point where she could, and then she had the opportunity. So she saw the weight of this thing on the horse, and this horse was carrying this too. And then she also got to wash it off, and bathe the horse and do the things. And there was just there's so many other activities that we do that bring about conversation. So they're not just petting the horse, although, sometimes that's needed at the very beginning or breathing.
The very beginning, yeah.
Yeah.
But there's, emotional balls where we work with a whole bunch of balls and you label all the balls with all your different emotions and you run around trying to pick them all up and you realize you can't carry them all, right? You need other entities to help you do that. And so there's curriculum that we actually write. I want to make sure that that's clear. And put on the schedule for each person. And it changes based on the client because it's all client driven. We might go in there and say, we have this agenda, we're going to do this. And that's not the case at all. The client is the one that knows more than anyone else what they need. And those horses take you places where you're not willing to go yourself or can go by yourself. So that's the beauty of that. And that's through those process of acting, because this is what Tim Hayes talks about, when you get out of your head and you start physically moving and working, you're no longer thinking here.
Distracted.
You're actually coming, from your body. And that's the thing that's when you're outside, when you're, sewing and gardening and, doing anything that's using your hands, that's a great way to get out of your head and be present.
I think it's a good point to bring up here as well, because you're mentioning the therapists. So there are human therapists as well, as opposed to just the horses. So it's a complex program. And how many therapists do you have?
There's a lot of moving parts.
Yes.
There's a lot of moving parts.
Yes.
Well, for an equine-assisted psychotherapy session, which is called EAP, there's 3 therapists in entity. So there's an actual therapist, either one of our interns that's going through their practicum or associate, or a licensed therapist. Or doctor, and then there's an equine specialist, which there's 3 of us on site now. Myself, I would wear another hat, so I'm the executive director, and I'm an equine specialist as well, EGALA certified, and Nicole and Anthony now.
And a lifesaver.
And then we have...
In many ways, yes.
Let me tell you.
Oh my God. So then there's the 9 horses. And we can use 1 or we can use 9. It's the herd. Depends on the activity that we're doing. And the client it's client driven about who they pick, right? And who they choose to work with. And it's always part of the story, right? So there's for equine-assisted psychotherapy, it's a 3-entity team. So you're paying for that number of people to show up. And when we do groups or group homes, let's say, there's usually an additional person that's helping with the horse, piece of it. So, there's usually many of us on site that are making the beauty happen.
And I think that kind of completes the vision of it. Now you realize this isn't just, a non-judgmental horse to a human, but there's people involved in developing all of this therapy for the benefit of the client. And the horse the beauty of it is it's non-judgmental.
Yeah.
That's the one, I didn't know you got to write on, literally.
They paint on them.
Something on the horse like a billboard.
We can.
Yeah.
But
Some people,
I get
it's
it.
non-toxic paint. I just want to say, we wash it off.
It's horse friendly.
Yes.
Horse friendly, animal friendly.
I just naively, I can see the value in that, especially the value of being able to wash it off and make it go away.
Yeah. Clients have their story, and they know. It comes from a wordless place sometimes. And seeing it or physically doing it might give them words or ideas about what's next? And there's a lot of processing that's going on week to week.
Well, and Donna also does a calendar every year where she uses clients and horses, and the clients pick a word. It's usually from the Bible.
I saw that on the website.
And it could be courage, strength, love, and then what their meaning is underneath it. And they paint it on themselves. And it helps to build their strength and make them, what word can you find that defines you, that gives you strength, that shows what you want, how you've been, so that she uses all different kinds of cool things.
Yeah. And there's spots for sponsors on the back, too.
Yes, there is. Lots of spots. We take sponsors everywhere. Helps with all the scholarships that are needed for the children.
And we will
Shameless plug.
We will touch on that.
But
well, we
also,
all know it costs to do this.
But, not only does she take care of all the kids at the ranch, the veterans that come to the ranch, the fire department and their wives that have been to the ranch. I mean, there's been, Placer County we had a group from Placer County that I went and helped Donna with that came to the ranch through the DA's office. I mean, they do all these different things, but she goes beyond that because, yes, there's 4 therapists that are needed for each, or 3, and then occasionally with groups there's 4 that are needed along with the horses. But Donna puts herself out there. Mm-hmm. Because my granddaughter's the one that does the counseling. And I found that this is my passion, that I'm going to do whatever it takes to help this ranch succeed because of what they've done for my family. Mm-hmm. But also because of what she does. She gives of herself 100%. And she does it for every person in the family, not just the person that's going through therapy.
And you also mentioned something, the groups, the fire department, the first responders, a lot of PTSD there, I would imagine, military vets, you were talking about Veterans Center. When groups like that come in, how does that look?
Do we have another show planned?
Can you do it in
That's big.
Okay.
Well, I mean, everyone's different. So we just did a fire, on fire for marriage for the SOC fire departments. And we basically just had the couples come and we did some activities that were very profound for them. And because there were 20 people and we, want to have intense, and be intentional and be specific with the group, we actually had 2 sets of human teams and 2 sets of horse teams, and then we rotated through. So one group did one activity while the other one did another, and then we swapped.
Okay.
That particular one ended with a really nice barbecue and around the fire, and even though it was drizzling, raining, everyone sat and talked about it and what was most profound for them and their relationships. Again, going back to we need community, and we isolate when we're in pain or something difficult is happening because we're ashamed or we're embarrassed that we can't be strong enough to fix it, was that they all realized that they were not what I call uniquely defective, that almost everyone was going through the same thing. Mm-hmm. And that was powerful for them to know, okay, we're not abnormal, right? And, figuring out safe places to be able to have those conversations. So the other feedback was, what are we doing next? Mm-hmm. So we'll deal more of that because 2 of the therapists that we work with, a lot of their clients are first responders. And the number one thing for the firefighters I didn't know was marriage, was really wanting to help with their marriage. So,
I didn't realize that either.
and this was, free to them. So it was good.
Good. Annabelle.
Yes.
So we've heard from Deanna. Deanna was her granddaughter. In this case, it's first person. It was you.
It was me.
Why don't you tell us your story?
So Deanna and Donna has explained that there are groups that come to the ranch. And I was actually one of those groups. I work with the DA's office, the Placer County DA's office. We have a Empower and Resilience project where it's survivor and victim driven. And so this group is very, very special. And so we, on one of our meetings, went to Hart's Landing. And we wanted to see, what the activities were for the clients and whatnot. And so it was the one where we had the round pen.
The egg and spoon. No, this is egg and spoon.
Oh, the egg and spoon.
Yeah.
But I felt like we were in the, so someone that doesn't know, right? We were in the pen.
Just a city girl here. I don't go to ranches, right?
Oh, yeah. She showed up in her
Don't
cute
mind
little
us.
slippers. Yeah.
Let us speak horse language to you.
Right.
Well, and so just to say, they wanted to hear all this head knowledge, and what we said is, let's do an exercise. So.
And so there was exercises where they had placed, so we were to get an egg, and the exercise was for us to protect it and label it with what's most precious to us. And for me, it's my kids. I'm tearing up.
It's okay.
Well, she naively volunteered to be so the rest of the team created an obstacle course and labeled it. While this whole time she picked a horse, which was Molly.
The horse picked me. Molly picked me.
Oh, okay. I didn't.
Yeah, because there was a group of horses that were there, and they had the bridle, or
Halter.
again the halter.
Yeah.
Think of a halter, I think of a shirt.
Right.
But we were to choose one, and then they showed us how to lead the horses with that. And Molly chose me, and so we were supposed to go while protecting this egg. We were supposed to go through these courses, and they were labeled. And I zoomed through all of them because what people didn't realize was that this event took place in June, and when I was 15, I was trafficked, and that happened in May, and so I've been having nightmares for a long time before and after, and so I pushed myself to go to all these meetings and just pushed all the nightmares away. I wasn't sleeping.
Just stay so busy that you don't have to think about anything.
Right. And the horses, they felt that. And during one of the exercises where I'm holding and cherishing this egg that's labeled my kids, Molly wouldn't budge. She wouldn't budge. She wanted me at this pole, and I realized that it said self-care, right?
No, that said grief.
It said grief.
You skipped self-care.
I skipped that. And this is
blew
where
right through that one,
to
right?
me, I blew through all of them. So I don't even remember, but I do remember that was grief, and then the last one was self-care. But when I was standing at grief, I couldn't even look at it without feeling all this emotion. And then Champ started coming towards me.
Champ's another horse?
Champ's another horse. And I was like, oh my gosh, what's going on? Because I could feel that they knew. They were both looking at me, but they were inching themselves towards me. And their necks actually came at a cross, I guess, but they were enveloping me. And I had not felt that kind of protection. Because, I wasn't, that was the one thing that I felt was protection. And the way that they were looking at me was like, it's okay. It's okay to let it all out. And I was just standing there looking at that grief, and I was like, oh my God, I don't want to be here.
And I'm with my team. I'm with my people.
Yes, I don't want nobody to know this.
Right.
And they knew some of my story, but not to the extent that I was having these nightmares. And they were getting pretty graphic. And that's actually how I had come to realize what had actually happened to me was through these nightmares. And I push everything aside, but always around the anniversary of what happened, it always comes back, and I will wake up screaming. And there's been times that I've actually hit people because I'm trying to get away. But when we were processing what was going on after I was finally able to feel like, okay, I've processed grief and I'm still like cherishing this egg, you know, so close to me, but we're supposed to not drop it, right? We were, I mean,
happens?
but yeah, but I there was actually another time that I want to say, who was it? Somebody dropped one, but I think it was when they were writing it and we were teasing them and whatnot, right? But, you know, I realized like how close I was holding this and how, when I was just looking at it and processing grief, how much it was really affecting me. But once I processed and, you know, was it Nicole?
Well, Nicole was there. And we had
Nicole
another
was there, but
therapist,
there was another therapist that was trying to explain everything, like what was really magical, what was happening. We realized what I had zoomed through. And both horses, after, they started easing up on me, but they were both following me. And so I had never experienced anything like that. I mean, my kids had experienced equine therapy back in 2009. But for me personally, that night, I was able to sleep. And I didn't have any nightmares. And that meant the world to me.
I'm sure.
Well, and she's a go-getter, right? And she's going to make
Big
things
time.
happen like we all do, right? We just put on whatever we need to, you know, shirt and jacket and face that we need to put on and make it happen, which was so interesting because Molly didn't stop one time through any of the there were hula hoops on the ground, there were cones on the ground, she had to step over things, and she walked right past self-care, and it wasn't until she got to this straight pole that said grief on it that she just Molly put on the brakes, and there was no way Annabelle was going to get her to move and budge, and allowed her. And it was interesting because we were observing in the shade because it was hot. It was, I mean, it was, we let the process go until she was done. And there were layers of grief that you went through. And every time she's like, okay, I'm done now, kind of pulling herself back together, right? You know, buckling yourself back up. Okay, I'm embarrassed. I don't want, I don't know what was going on in her head at the time.
Sure.
I was.
But, okay, I'm done. Let's move on. And then the horse was not budging. And so she's
"Nope,
like,
you're not done
okay,
yet."
and then she would allow, I was so proud of you for your courage and your vulnerability and your humility, because that's what it takes. I think, that's what it takes to do the mourning and the grieving about a lot of things, right? Sometimes it's the time that the stuff didn't heal and we're still doing, So, but each time you were like, okay, I'm done now. And you're kind of pulling yourself back together by your, bootstraps. Molly's like, no.
No.
And at the time where Molly was almost ready to go forward, Champion's like, no, you guys aren't done yet. You girls are going to stand here.
So the other horse stopped you.
The other horse stopped me.
Both of you.
Yeah, both. He said, nope, I'm not letting both of you
Molly was
because
probably saying, no, this has been enough for her. This is enough. And Champ's
she's
like,
gonna break. He's like, no, she's stronger than that, and that's what I felt. And the horses can't read,
no.
so how would they have known that? But that's where I said like something magical happened, where they felt that coming from me, and I just.
It's like their intuition takes over,
Oh,
and
they've scanned me too.
their intuition takes over, and they're there, and they're just looking at you and loving you and saying, you can make it through this because you're not alone.
Yeah.
I'm here.
Each time that I visited, they come to me.
So have you now gone through a program?
She has not.
No.
Okay.
Just that one. And that's where I have to.
1 hour.
Yeah,
1
it was
hour
just 1 hour that changed my whole life. It really did. I was able to, again, reevaluate and say, okay, I haven't been able to heal from this fully yet, and it's the matter of finding scholarships and also time as well. But
we need to get you on that.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I realize how much I have not yet been able to heal. And then, later coming to find out that, there was an older gentleman that was molesting me as well, and I couldn't say anything. Nobody believed me.
This is as a child.
No, this is after.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, when I was 15.
Okay.
So I was
15, not
yeah.
after your experience at the ranch.
No. I was 15. No. No. But there was all of these vulnerabilities
Right.
that predators saw me as, and still kept coming after me. And that's why with the horses,
Yeah.
that protection, even when I was going through all of that, through all of the emotions, my mind, I was going back to those moments, but the horses were there. And again, I would never have known that was like the curriculum.
Yeah.
The horses don't read curriculum either.
Right.
But that is what ended up happening was they allowed me to go to those deep, dark places, even where I didn't want to go to. And they allowed me to just say, okay, you know what? You can sit there and process it, but we are here. And that's what I felt.
And I think that's the interesting thing of when we isolate and feel ashamed, because I think that was even just you coming to the ranch to share your testimony during our spring stampede. You know, you guys were there volunteering, right, Deanna? And you said something really profound. And you guys, before we started and went on air, you had turned to Annabelle and said, "My granddaughter heard you." And
She did.
And that was really powerful for these young people. And one of the things that you said that was really powerful, Annabelle, was the shame needs to go back to the people, or the guilt or whatever. We don't need to be ashamed of what happened to me. I didn't do this, right? But we, for some reason, we take that on, and you put it back where it needs to go. And you know, the ability to grieve or mourn is the process of sharing the story, right? And we do that in community with each other.
We'll be back with more amazing stories of what these horses can accomplish right after this. I was in the media business for over 35 years and had the great privilege of working with Runyon Saltzman, RSE, Marketing, Advertising, and Public Relations. We collaborated on many different campaigns, but their commitment to the nonprofit sector hasn't changed since their founder, Gene Runyon, started the agency. Over many years and many campaigns, Runyon Saltzman has been committed to improving lives by tackling California's most challenging issues. Guided by research-informed strategies and insightful, creative solutions, RSE develops innovative communications campaigns that raise awareness, educate, and reduce stigma in diverse communities throughout our state and beyond. To learn more about RSE, visit rs-e.com.
Hello, this is Scott Thomas with Cap Trust in our Sacramento office. I specialize in working with local nonprofits and associations. Annually, we survey private and public nonprofit organizations across the country to better understand challenges they see in today's environment. In our more recent survey, we heard concerns about proper board governance, mission-aligned investment, and how to implement alternative investments. If you would like a copy of the survey or to discuss your organization, look me up, Scott Thomas at captrust.com.
I'm thrilled to have Western Health Advantage partnering with us as they do so much to support so many nonprofit agencies in our community. As a truly local health plan, you'll find individual and family options, employer options, plans for CalPERS and Medicare Advantage. From medical services to pharmacy, health and wellness support, as well as behavioral health care, Western Health Advantage has a plan that fits what you need. As an employer, for profit or nonprofit business, individual or family, you can find more at westernhealth.com. Well, and that, I think that's a good segue to the next question. And both of you, Deanna and Annabelle, thank you so much for just having the courage to share that.
Yep.
That's not easy. And to your point of the ranch being your place of catharsis, you know, so is this. You know, the ability, the more story, the more time you can share it, you know, the more people you know you can help as a result of it. You know, it takes that negative into a positive because it's a good feeling.
Right. And again, it's to make sure that when we share our stories, we are no longer carrying that with us and the shame, and what I said was to put the shame and blame back on the perpetrators where they belong. Because in the culture that we live in, we don't want to air out our dirty laundry, but that's not our dirty laundry. We didn't do anything.
They're
it was,
victims.
Yeah, it was the perpetrators. And so they're walking around as though there's, they don't have a care in the world, but yet we're the ones that are carrying that shame. So
Proud of you.
thank you.
Yep. You
Very
still
proud
showed
of
up
you.
in little slippers.
Again.
We're going to have to make you a farm girl.
Well, and I would imagine to the point of when you have some of these groups come through, the unintentional consequence. These are, you're disarmed, you're coming in, okay, I'm going to go see this horse thing. It's kind of cool. Let's go.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And, of course, this is the DA, we've seen it from kids there all the time. It must, it's a good program.
Right.
Until you trip into it and you realize, oh my gosh, it's me.
It's, and how powerful it is.
Don, I would imagine you see that more.
Oh, that's what happens. Because most people have not been in an environment where you're working in with the horses or being around them or the activities. And, hardened gang members, realize that they can belong to something else other than a gang when they realize, the safety there too. But it is uncomfortable for many people. And so because you're outside of your comfort zone, now you're unmasked, right? You don't have this, I'm going to make this happen, right? And the horses provide a backdrop for that. So it's no longer someone, let's say it was a friend, even a good friend of yours that said, no, let's stop here and talk about grief. And let's say I was that friend, you could be angry with me or say, no, I don't need to be able to do that or whatever.
Especially not in front of everybody.
Yeah.
I'm with my group of peers and workmates.
Right, or even in a room where you're talking about that. I mean, there is a pride and ego. I mean, Lord, forgive us for that, right? And it creates. We need some vulnerability and humility to be able to do that. But there's a lot of ego and pride that gets in the way. And I'm not saying anything bad about you.
No.
We do.
Yeah.
We're all, that's the way we're.
No,
human.
that was where I didn't want anybody to see the true aspect of what was happening to me internally.
Yeah.
I mean, who wants to open up about
Yeah.
sexual trauma?
Yeah.
I mean, really? I mean,
Yeah.
it's a taboo subject, right?
Right.
The society has made it a taboo subject.
So we see that all the time, and because people are outside of their comfort zone, and the activities are designed to get them out of their head and moving and working, together. So whether it's individuals or groups, teen groups, group homes, or even like we did that day,
DA's
the DA's office, team building. It's gets people away from what they're normally used to doing, right?
Did you find a different appreciation amongst your teammates
Oh, they
as
saw.
a result?
Yes, absolutely. So we have the ENR, the Empowering Resilience Project, falls under the Placer Justice Foundation nonprofit of the DA's office, and we are working to funnel funding towards Heart's Landing because of that. They knew about it, but to actually see it firsthand, they saw like the power of what even just 1 hour did for me. Can you imagine for a child that is still processing? Me as an adult, I'm able to come to terms with it sometimes.
Yeah.
But with the child, they let loose and then they feel that from the horse and the healing that can come from that.
Yeah. And it's certainly not the answer to every,
No.
as we were just talking about, it's a lifetime process. I think all of us need support. And even when, we haven't gone through something like you guys have gone through, we all need that community and support around us, and even more reason to support the people that have been, victimized and need some extra support.
Well, and you've touched on it some too, where, the people at the ranch, sometimes you'll see bruises, physical bruises, but society as a whole, they don't see what's happening inside of you. They don't see the anxiety, the PTSD, the depression,
and we don't want them to
anger,
either.
and nobody wants to see it.
We do our best to cover that up.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's like, let's just push it aside, let's just forget about it. Just don't deal with it. Where the people that are going through it, they really need to deal with it. They need to talk about it. They need to get it out. And so I think it's sometimes looked less upon, than, she broke her leg or she lost a leg. She needs help. She needs physical therapy. She needs this. She needs support. Well, the people that have gone through this, that have gone through the PTSD, the vets, that have seen what they've seen out there, the first responders, the children, the internal trauma that you can't see. That's just as bad as, if not sometimes worse, than somebody that has a physical trauma. And it shouldn't be a taboo subject. It should be something that people can talk about without people like turning their face away and not wanting to hear it and not, it's hard to listen to.
Yeah.
It's even harder to tell the story.
Right.
Who wants to open up about something like this,
Brave people.
Not Annabelle, not
Brave.
me.
Correct.
But, it's something that needs to be talked about. It needs to be put out there because that's the only way people are going to get help.
Yep. Brave people.
Agreed.
Courageous people.
Yep.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Being courageous.
Thank you for everything.
So,
Yes.
your therapists eat a lot.
Oh.
They're very expensive therapists.
Very expensive.
How is the ranch funded?
Well, we have private donations. We do have some private paying clients. So we do work with organizations and people that do that. And then over 70% of our clients are scholarships. So maybe, and it could be a partial scholarship. So insurance does pay a little bit, not necessarily towards equine-assisted psychotherapy, but towards a therapist. So it's billed like that. And so if our therapists take that insurance, then that's great. We don't take insurance as Hearts Landing Ranch. I'm not a therapist. Just make sure that's clear. And then there might be let's say, part is paid by insurance, part is paid by the individual, and part is paid by scholarship here. Or sometimes we'll just have all scholarship. We do have some skin in the game. We've learned over the years that it does help even, people to have, some contribution, to that. But, our wonderful donors, our wonderful volunteers that help take care of some things that we don't have to necessarily pay for. So we do keep our costs down. We do get some grants. And some wonderful people out there that do that. We have a beautiful woman that Lions, yes, real estate. They just gave us a CARES Foundation, and then we have agents that sometimes a portion of their commissions comes back to us. So a lot of people, creative ways, stock, all kinds of things. We are looking to expand our footprint. And our number of people. So we do about 2,300 hours of therapy services on an annual basis. We'd like to double that. And so there's a 5-year vision. We'd like to accelerate that because, to be honest, it's dark right now in terms of the things that you were talking about. It's only getting darker.
Yes.
And so the 5-year plan, while it seems like it's hefty for us to double what we're currently doing, we need to accelerate that. So there's a sense of urgency to do that. So part of it is, we've been almost all volunteer run. I was a volunteer up until March. I'm getting paid after 10 years. But we do need more people. There's, a sense of urgency to actually hire the type of people that we need to have on site that we can run multiple sessions at the same time. Sure. And then we need cover. We work all year round and it's hot out there all day long or it's cold. We don't stop because of that. So we need some infrastructure that's there. So we'd like to, if we're staying where we are, we'd like to expand to neighboring properties. 3 of them are for sale right now. And we'd
3
like
now.
to, yes, 3 now.
There's 3
There was
now.
I know.
2.
Praise God.
3
Yeah.
now.
I know. So I'm like, okay, Lord, if you want this to happen, you will make it happen. So it's either there on that property and we, acquire some additional land, which, makes some additional things happening. Or, and we continue to build that out and put some covered space on there. So if anyone has $3 million, come on over to help us create an arena and some office space where we work out of a tough shed. That's the
With
only
2
source
desks.
with 2 desks is only source of air conditioning. And we need to grow that because when we were doing EMDR, we'd have to clear out the whole entire office. And so we do need some extra space. So we do have a plan that's been sketched out and done that. But, we're right in the middle of Granite Bay and we're easily accessible by the Highway 50 corridor, the Highway 80 corridor, Sacramento. We'd like to stay in that area. We'd love to have 10 or 20 acres, honestly. And there are different horse ranches that operate in 2 locations. And so we're just praying, that people come forward. So there are the scholarships, but the big picture is that we're going to double what we're doing. We're going to take back, people and be able to provide the resources that they need to have to get them a start where they need to go. We don't think we're, as I said, the end all to everything. I think it's a community that comes along with all the different tools and resources that we have to be able to offer support.
Definitely need a covered arena to start.
Definitely need a covered arena in some offices.
The rain in the winter and the beating down sun in the middle of summer are really rough on the horses and the people going through it.
I don't think the horses mind as much as the people, but yeah, it does create some wear and tear on the people to be able to work in those conditions. But we'll do it, and we know that God has a plan for us to, have the environment that He wants us to be working in. But we use it all.
And you touched on a couple of things throughout, and even in this last salvo of the discussion, the faith-based element of the ranch.
Yep.
In just a couple of minutes, can you share a little bit about what that is, how it came to be? It's not just Hearts Landing, but there's a lot of faith involved. There's a lot of prayer. There's a lot of belief.
Well, it's faith and belief that brought us there, right? I was not looking to do this. And it was our ability to say yes. I thanked God for not sending me to the trash heaps of the Philippines or the, Congo or something like that.
Yeah.
All the way back to your first exposure with the horse.
What?
All the
way to my first exposure
spirit?
to the horse, yeah. And it was an interesting transition because we still have a vacation rental property where we moved from, 5 minutes away. And it was with faith because it really showed us clearly who was with us and who was not with us. And the Lord stayed with us, and it helped me understand when you see trauma like this level, it doesn't make sense until you really understand, that there's evil in the world. God doesn't make it happen, but then how do you work with people to help them understand that they are uniquely and wonderfully made? And that God has a purpose, even in some of these difficult things that happened that were caused by other humans, that there's a purpose for that. And it's telling your testimony and story and being brave so that you can lead the way for others and shed light in a dark, really, really dark place and be there. 2013, things were humming along. People were happy in their lifestyle, and we were uniquely placed at that, during the pandemic where we just, we couldn't, there was not enough time in the day to be able to do what we do. And thank God for, local communities and people that volunteer that come alongside, to build the place up and put in, arena lights, and things like that. So, what was the question I was answering? The faith-based part.
Yes.
I was led there by the Lord to start this ranch, and it's through Him that we are being sustained and maintained, because otherwise I could not put my head around the evil that happens until I put it through the light of like the work that we're trying to do there, and to come alongside people to show them that God will use the damage that's done in their life to actually inspire and help other people and also redeem them.
But as an additional layer, you're also giving the horses another chance as well.
True. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a full circle.
It is.
Absolutely a full circle. And to your point, thank God that you exist.
Yes.
Because look at the support and the help that you're providing to the community.
Absolutely.
So, Deanna,
We'd be lost without her.
well, Deanna, thank you for
Thank you for having
your
us.
story. And Annabelle,
Thank you.
Amazing courage. And I've seen you tell your story because I was at the ranch for the spring event.
Yep.
And so I literally saw you, and it was warm. It was a hot day. It was a hot day, so I can
And that
appreciate.
wasn't even summer.
No, and I can appreciate. There was one of those weird days that was 90 about a month ago.
Yeah.
And from a standpoint of what you're doing, Donna, I mean, without a doubt, the program's one of the most unique we've had, and probably will be for some time. But using rescued horses to support people who need rescue it's just amazing. It's amazing what you do, and from a standpoint of the ability to get the funding, I hope this helps and gets the message out a little bit differently.
Me too.
But thank you so much for what you do and for your team. your human team and your four-hoofed team because it really is, it's amazing. So we appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks for coming out to the Stampede and any other event that we have, and people can go and find us on all kinds of resources to hear about our upcoming events.
If they do, what is the website? Where do they find you?
HeartsLandingRanch.com. So heart like the heart in your chest. Landing, LANDING, ranch.com.
Okay, and we will post that in the show notes as well. So, ladies, thank you very much.
And
Thank you for
Thank
having
you
us.
for doing this work and for getting this word out there. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed the episode. If what you heard moved you, please reach out to that organization and do what you can to help. If you like and appreciate what we're doing to support local nonprofits, please give us a positive review, subscribe, and share. If you're a nonprofit with an interest in participating in an episode, you can reach me at jeff@hearmenowstudio.com. If you have a need for the services or products our sponsors offer, please reach out to them. CapTrust, fiduciary advice for endowments and foundations, Runyon Saltzman Incorporated, RSE, marketing, advertising, and public relations creating integrated communications committed to improving lives, and Western Health Advantage, a full-service healthcare plan for individuals, employer groups, and families. The Nonprofit Podcast Network is a production of, is recorded at, and edited by Hear Me Now Studio.